Hi all, Lee here, coming to you from the beautiful city of Shenzhen, China. Today I want to talk about something that's been hitting the headlines again, the ongoing US-China trade war, and specifically the whole saga with soybeans. You know, it's one of those stories that really highlights how these big geopolitical moves can ripple out and affect everyday people, like farmers in the American heartland. And I must say, it's got some ironic twists that may make you shake your head. So grab a cuppa, sit back, and let's break this down step by step. First off, a bit of background for those who might not be up to speed. The US-China trade war kicked off back in 2018 under the Trump administration, when the US slapped tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. The idea was to pressure China on things like intellectual property and trade imbalance. China, of course, didn't just sit back, they retaliated with their own tariffs, targeting key US exports. One of the biggest hits, soybeans. Why soybeans, you ask? Well, China is the world's largest importer of soybeans, using them for everything from animal feed to cooking oil. And the US, they were supplying a massive chunk of that. About half of China's soy imports came from American farms before the tariffs hit. But fast forward to now, in 2025, and things have escalated again under President Trump's second term. Those tariffs are still in place, and some have even been ramped up. In response, China has pretty much halted purchases of US soybeans from the latest harvest. According to recent reports, up to July this year, China brought 51% fewer American soybeans compared to the same period last year. And that's on top of the already low numbers. In fact, US soybean exports to China have dropped to basically zero for the 2025 season so far. No sign of Chinese buyers at the table. In fact, all US agriculture exports to China are down a whopping 53% in the first 7 months of 2025 per USDA data. It's a boycott that's hitting hard, and it's not just soybeans, but soybeans are the poster child for this mess. But here's where it gets interesting. China hasn't stopped needing soybeans. They've just shifted where they get them from. Enter countries like Brazil and Argentina, who are more than happy to fill the gap. Brazil has been the big winner here. As of 2024, they were supplying a massive 71% of China's soybean imports, up from just 2% 3 decades ago. And Argentina, they're stepping up big time. Just recently, in September 2025, Chinese buyers booked at least 10 cargoes of Argentine soybeans after Argentina dropped some export taxes to make their beans more competitive. China secured deals for around 12 million metric tons from Brazil and Argentina combined, completely bypassing the US. Argentine exports to China hit a 6-year high in the 24-25 season. It's like China said, thanks but no thanks America, we'll take our business elsewhere. And you know what? The South American countries are loving it. Their farmers are booming, exports are setting records, and it's reshaping global trade flows. Meanwhile, back in the US, soybean farmers are feeling the pinch, and I mean really feeling it. We're talking huge surpluses piling up in silos, prices dropping and sales tanking. Farmers in states like Illinois, Wisconsin, Ohio and Minnesota are describing it as a looming crisis, or even a hell of a mess. One report mentioned a cargo ship full of US soybeans getting rerouted mid-Pacific because China cancelled the deal. These folks have been dealing with this for years now, but with the trade war heating up again, it's worse than ever. The American Soybean Association is out there saying farmers feel betrayed as Argentina and Brazil gobble up what used to be their market. And let's not forget, soybeans aren't just a crop, they're a lifeline for rural America, supporting jobs, communities and the wider agriculture economy. So, what's the US government doing about it? Well, President Trump has signalled that subsidies are on the way for these struggling soybean farmers. Just this week, he announced plans to use revenue from those very tariffs to provide aid. Basically, cash bailouts to help farmers weather this storm. He said something along the lines of directing tariff money straight to the soybean farmers until things turn around. Sounds helpful, right? But here's the thing, and this is the part that really makes you think. Where exactly does that tariff revenue come from? Tariffs aren't paid by China, they're paid by US importers, companies right there in America who bring in Chinese goods. And who do those companies pass the costs on to? You guessed it, American consumers. Higher prices on everything, from electronics to clothing to manufacturing parts. So in effect, the American public is footing the bill for these tariffs. And now the same money is being funneled back as subsidies to US soybean farmers who got hurt because of China's retaliation to those same tariffs. 3. It's like a big circle. US imposes tariffs, China stops buying US soy, US farmers suffer, US uses tariff cash from Americans to bail them out. Oh, the irony. It's essentially the American taxpayer subsidising their own farmers because of a policy that was meant to win against China. And all the while, China keeps chugging along, sourcing soy from elsewhere without missing a beat. Don't get me wrong, I feel for those US farmers. They're caught in the crossfire of these big geopolitical decisions. But from where I'm sitting here in China, it's clear that the trade war hasn't exactly gone as planned for the US. China has diversified its supply chains, strengthened ties with other countries like Brazil and Argentina, and kept its economy growing. In fact, by turning to South America, China has not only secured its food needs, but also boosted the economies of these countries also. It's a win-win for them, while the US is left dealing with the fallout. Trade wars are tough on everyone, but this soybean story shows how interconnected the world is. No one wins when you try to isolate or punish. Collaboration is key, and here in China I've seen firsthand how resilient and adaptive the system is. They're not backing down, they're pivoting and thriving. Anyway, that's my take on the soybean situation in the US-China trade war. What do you think? Drop me a comment down below. Are tariffs helping or hurting the US? If you're new here, consider hitting the subscribe button and join the community. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one.